So we've just got back from holiday, well, a couple of days ago. We were up at Hervey Bay, had a couple of nights up there. Really just a day really, even though we were there for 2 nights because you got to sort of leave the next morning. Over the long weekend, and then we shoot down to Beachmere. We had a night at Beachmere, goofed around at the beach in the morning, and we went over to Scarborough. And now it's been back onto the build back here again. So, you know, the thing is that when you go away, it really makes you aware of the things you actually need in your van and the things that are important to you. And I keep harping on about this stuff, I guess, but it is important. So, you know, kitchen's really important in the van, I reckon. You've got to be able to clean up and stuff like that. You've got to be able to wash your dishes unless you're going to have disposable plates or you've got somewhere decent to clean up. You're not always at a camping site, so that kind of stuff is fairly important. And then, you know, the other thing that I've been thinking about a lot is that I used to think that probably we didn't need a toilet or a shower in the van, but I'm finding now, because we've got the 2 kids, you know, and I mean, I guess it doesn't apply so much for people who are single because you could just use your gym or whatever, but, you know, it's kind of nice to sometimes be able to have a shower from your van. So I'm thinking my next build for sure I'm going to have a toilet and shower. This build is probably not going to be possible, but yeah, so a toilet and shower would be a handy thing to have in a van. You know, there are just situations where you go away and you just don't have running water. I mean, probably one of the biggest problems I have at the moment is I just don't have running water, and if I had running water that would make a huge difference. I actually do have a little shower cubicle which you know, it's like a tent kind of cubicle which is designed to, you know, so you can shower in it and stuff like that, but we're just not able to use it yet because we don't have the running water. So it's going to be interesting as I get running water in the van to see, you know, how much difference that makes. And my idea is to have not only my kitchen sink, but to have a second tank of water and a second pump down the back of the van, or run an accumulator and just run a lead, not a lead because it's not electrical, but run a pipe down to the back of the van where I could have a shower head in the back of the van as well, so that you know, if you want to wash your kids quickly or something like that, and we've got a young one who, you know, is still kind of in nappies, and you just, you know, like the other day, we, you know, nightmare crap, and it's like you got to take him down to the toilets and try and wash him and clean him, and it's just a hassle. Whereas if you're at home, you know, you wouldn't even think twice about that. You clean them up, you chuck them in the shower, wash them down, put a new nappy on them, or whatever you had to do. Again. But you know, when you don't have running water, that stuff becomes a whole heap more difficult. I mean, you could do it with a bucket, but again, we don't have the running water. So I reckon we need a shower spray head in the back of our van, and then it would be easy. We could just open the doors, put the pop-up tent up, and then I could, you know, I could wash them down, you know, quickly if I needed to. So I'm really looking forward to getting the water in the van. I just think it's such a big thing, and the only thing I guess at the moment is how much water to actually put in the van. And I'm thinking I need at least 25 litres, and I reckon probably 50 litres, maybe 25 litres in the front and 25 litres in the back, or 3 lots of 25 litres, I don't know. But you know, one of the problems is where to put the water, where to store it. You know, don't really have room for a custom tank, I don't think, and I don't know how other people are doing it. It's not a problem I've really looked into yet, but it's one that I'm going to have to solve for sure. Got eaten alive at the beach. The Australian biting midge. No one likes a fly in the ear, much less the literal kind that comes with a nasty bite. Enter a class of minuscule flies under the name Ceratopogonidae, better known in America as no-see-ums and in Australia as biting midges. The biting midge grows approximately between 0.5mm and 4mm long, or about the size of a pinhead. Small though a biting midge may be, make no mistake, when a swarm with its peers, it is a formidable nuisance for the average Australian. Interesting facts about the biting midge. More than 200 varieties of the biting midge can be found in Australia. The insect follows a holometabolous life cycle which composes 4 life stages. The first is an egg, the second is a larva, the third is a pupa, and the last is a mature adult. The average lifespan of an adult midge, depending on the individual species, is between a few days and several months. The midges really disperse very far from their breeding sites, and as such, most midge bites to humans happen near those conspicuous areas. Between the male and the female midge, only the latter actually bites.
This it does by breaking its human or bovine victim's skin and injecting saliva to prevent blood from clotting. The female then consumes enough protein from the blood to help develop a batch of eggs. And there we have it, the weekly Nature Channel. Well, it's not really the Nature Channel, but we like to throw a bit of nature in because we're in Australia, of course.
Went to the beach that we went to out at Beachmere was like a mangrove swamp at one end, and went and used a public toilet down there, and there were these little midgie flies in there, and they just ate me, man. I am like so itchy the last couple of days, and I got sunburned as well, so I was sunburned and itchy from these things. I seem to be allergic to them. They just everywhere I got bitten, I swelled up, and they were just everywhere. So it wasn't so fun. So that's another thing I got to remember putting in the van is insect repellent. There's all these things you just need in your van that make your life easy, you know. So having an emergency medical kit in your van is probably fairly important, I would say. So anyway, without further ado, I'll show you where I'm up to with the van, what I'm doing. It's getting really hot here now every day. I'm working under awnings again. It's just really quite warm. It's pretty much 30 degrees every single day. We're not even in summer yet. Summer's going to be way more crazy, and this is a taste, and it just reminds me of what it was like last year. When we had the bushfires, it was just, you know, so hot everywhere. Everywhere was so dry. Our grass is looking really, really dry. It hasn't really rained. We had we had big thunderclouds come over the other day. I thought, oh man, we're in for a storm, but it just didn't happen. You know, like it showered just a tiny little bit, just enough to wet the top of the grass. It wasn't enough to even soak into the ground. So if the weather continues like this, we're probably going to end up in another fire season, which is a bit of a disaster. So we've got to hope for some rain. We really, around this time, would normally be having, you know, a whole heap of rain. We normally have a rainy season, and the rainy seasons haven't been happening, so that's what's been causing these fires. So I'll show you the van. So this is the front of the van. I've always wanted to build a bulkhead between the front and the back of the van, and that's pretty much what I'm doing. The reason I wanted to do that was simply because the cab gets really, really hot, like ridiculously hot. You know, I haven't got a sunshade there, but I know even with the sunshade it'd still get hot in there, and I don't want that heat coming through to the back of the van. I just don't want it. I want to kind of trap it in the front, and I'm going to probably get some solar vents for the front windows, so I can prop the windows down with solar vents in there, so it'll be venting out all the time. And I'll be getting silver shades and stuff to put in all the windows to try and help reflect the heat out. I've got to insulate in the top of here as well, so I haven't done any of the insulation in here yet, but that's the next area, is to start insulating all inside here. And I'm thinking maybe what I can do is I can maybe extend this through into here behind the seats and actually put a couple of water tanks here, so a grey water tank and a clean water tank, something like that. So I'm going to measure that all up today. I'm pretty sure I can get a couple of containers of water in there, which would be good. A custom container will be even better. I've got to be a little bit careful because I need to be able to get at this child seat belt, which is here, which I've sort of worked out I can reach through from the front of the seat, but it's difficult. Yeah, but I don't want to waste the space. You know, there's a lot of space under there, and I don't want to waste it. Why have I got the space there? Why is the bulkhead so far back? Well, it's really simple. The captain's chair at the front there needs to be able to move forward and backwards depending on who's driving, and that's about as far back as I would want it where it's set now. I would never have it set that far back for me, but for someone taller, if I ever sold the van, they would need it set back at that kind of level. So yeah, there has to be a little bit of playroom there. Maybe not quite as much as I've got there at the moment, but I think that's probably going to be the most practical thing. And the other problem I have is the window, of course. So the window up in here has been a problem, because, and I knew this was going to be a problem actually, because I'd already sort of worked it out in my head and also in a 3D program, that this window really was just in the wrong place. It just really, the van really shouldn't have had a window on the side, but you know, it came with the windows and that's what I've got. So I'm going to have to build a false sill in here, I think, because my bulkhead really needs to come to here, I reckon. So yeah, and then the other complication, of course, is I've got my big fridge freezer, which is just over here, and that thing has to come also into the kitchen area in here, and so I have to work out now, you know, like where my splashback tiles are going to go. This bit here is going to be a window where you can look through. It'll have 2 pieces of perspex in here to try and keep the heat out again. This will all be insulated, this whole thing, so that the heat's not coming through. That's kind of where it's at the moment. Got lots of wood here. and I just need to start framing this thing up. I really need to get onto this job. I've just taken way too long to do it. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. That's pretty much where it's at today. There's just a ton of more things to do. Never feels like there's enough time to do them all, but I'm going to get on and start doing the things now. So here we are again, nice sunny day in Queensland once again, back onto the camper van build. I thought I'd give you guys an update and show you what's happened, where I'm at with it. It's taken a little while to get this far, another week's gone by. Haven't really filmed much of what I've been doing, but I'll show you where I'm up to with it. We've been away in the van a couple of times and kind of learning about it. We're going to be away this weekend again. We're going down to Sunshine Coast, so we'll spend a day down there, and we'll be back up this way, and we've got another night that we've got to spend somewhere else. So what I've been doing here basically is building a bit of a bulkhead in the back, and the reason I've done this is because, as I sort of said before, is that we have rainy season here, and it can rain and it can be a real pain in the neck, and you end up with having to open the back of your van. I have a lot of stuff in the boot of my van that I have to carry around with me for the kids and for camping and other things, and if I need to get in the back of the van, let's say I need to cook something and I'm out under a shelter somewhere, but the van's not in shelter and I need to get in and get the gas bottle out of the back of the van, then I need to be able to do that without my bedding getting wet. So the idea is that we have this little, put some perspex windows in there, and that'll all be covered in some sort of waterproof covering on the outside of it, and if it's bucketing with rain, we can open the back doors without any risk of having our bedding and our bed area or the interior of our van wet. Obviously we get a little bit of water in the boot, but that wouldn't really matter. It's not such a big deal as it is getting it on where your clothes and your bedding and stuff are. So moving around to the front of the van, I've started to build a wardrobe over here. Obviously it's only small. The reason it has to be small is because I've got, I've simply got these two seats here which take up a lot of room in my van. If I didn't have the two seats here, I could have built something much bigger, but with the two seats here, it really limits what I can do, and I have to have, well, I didn't have to have two seats, but I needed at least one more seat, and this was a convenient option for me because the van came with extra seats, or extra seating, which I'll show you in a second. We'll talk about a little bit. I've got some paneling on the back wall here now. I've got my fuse box covered in, but I need to build a door for that at the moment, which I haven't got around to doing yet. That's kind of on the cards to do. Inside the van, I've started to line the back where the bed goes, and the next job today is to get the rest of this lined up, and to also get this boxing at the back of the van finished and boxed in properly. It's well underway, but there's still a bit more work to do on that. The panel I glued directly to the wall, and the reason I glued that panel directly to the wall was simply because I needed the space. Like for me, I'm not super tall, but I need that extra space to sleep across this bed. My lady, she's fine, she can sleep in this no problem without reaching the end, but my feet are kind of on the window when I'm sleeping, so I have to really make sure that my head is right up against that wall, and then I have just enough room that I can kind of stretch out and stretch my toes out a little bit when I'm sleeping. So the bed for us is well, for me anyway, it's kind of like, this is kind of the absolute minimum length I want a bed to be. Any narrower than this, and it wouldn't be that comfortable for me. I sleep slightly sideways across this, but anyway, it works pretty well. It's pretty comfy. The mattress is pretty comfy. It's pretty good to sleep in. The vent's working really well. We've had rain a couple of times now, and that vent has been good. Like, it hasn't let any. We haven't had major rain yet. We've had good half an hour of really hard downpours, and it's never leaked. So I'm pretty happy with that. I'm pretty happy with the installation. I've still got to tidy it up a little bit. Someone else was talking about this as well, where we have these areas around it where I think when you buy these straight from the factory, they specify the depth that you need, and this one's too short because obviously I've got a lot of insulation in the roof here, so I'm going to build some kind of boxing or something to go around that to tidy that up when I'm a little bit further along. But that vent is great. Like, it's just so good. It's so nice in the mornings to be able to have all my windows blacked out and be in the van, but I can still have some light in here, without people looking in while we're getting ourselves ready or getting up out of bed. And we can open it up obviously first thing in the morning and let the air in, or we can have it open all night if we want. It's got It's got a mesh on here, and it's also got a shade which goes the other way, so at night, you know, if you don't want the light in there, you can just slide that shade across, and if you want it open, then you can just have the insect mesh there, which stops the insects from coming in, which is great. And I really think this bulkhead is going to help me tidy up the back end of the van. Like the back end of the van and the sliding doors on vans are always the area that's kind of messy, I reckon. Like I'm never happy with how they look. They always just look unfinished, if you ask me. So I'm going to try and, you know, this is my answer anyway to the back of the van. So once that's all boxed in, I mean, it's going to look great. And it's going to stop, you know, stuff like we have cushions and things in our bed, and sometimes we're sitting here and sometimes the kids push them all up against the door, and you go and open the door and you forget the pillows or the cushions are there, and next thing they're falling out on the ground. And if it's you know, if you're in an area where it's a little bit scungy outside or whatever, that's a slight problem. You don't really want that. So this will solve that problem. This will completely solve that problem, which is great. The sliding door, I'm not quite so sure what I'm going to do with that yet, but we'll get to that when we get to it. I've got to build some doors. I've got to build some doors for the front of this. I've got to tidy some of these edges up and stuff, but that's all minor stuff. I've got some stuff that's going to go up in here. I made a little bit of a hash here when I did this. It wasn't quite perfect, but I've got nice little bits of scotia that are going to go up into here. Or cornice, I should say. No, it's scotia, the stuff that I'm putting up. Anyway, scotia, cornice, doesn't really matter. It's what I'm going to run around the edges. I notice a lot of other people do that as well. And then what I've done is I've actually screwed all these panels on. So I've screwed that top panel on, and I've screwed this bottom panel on down here as well. And the reason that I've screwed those panels on is simply because I want to be able to remove those panels if I ever need to. So there's a lot of wiring behind those panels, and I just want to make sure that I could, if I had to, I could unscrew the panel and I could actually take it down, and I could, you know, fix wiring or fit more wiring if I ever needed to. I mean, hopefully I'd never need to do that, but if I absolutely had to, I could do it, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to continue that trend across that sidewall on the van at the top, because there's a lot of wiring through there, and I just want to make sure that in the future, if I ever need to get at the wiring, I can get at it. So that's the plan with that. I've got a couple of extra little things to install actually too. I've still got a reversing camera that I need to install into the back, so I need to get on doing that. And I'm going to fit a lens on that so that I can see what's behind me when I'm reversing, because even with the windows it's still not good enough. It's so many blind spots when you're reversing a big van like this. Is so easy to back into someone. And the other thing that people have been asking me about is people have been asking me about the seats. I've been asked a couple of times now about my seats in my van. I have these extra seats in the van because I have two kids, you know, so I've got 3 seats in the front because it's a 3-seater transit deal, and I've got these 2 seats in the back. And when I got the van, this van had been already modified. So this van actually had 3 seats behind the driver's seat, and then it had these 2 seats in the rear where they are now. And I didn't want the seats obviously in front of here because I just didn't need them. So what I've done is I've taken those out. I've got those in my other van at the moment, just sitting around deciding what I'm going to do with them. Maybe I'll sell them later, I don't know. But I never had to modify this van. This van already had a mod plate on it. It had a mod plate for 9 people, the seat 9. No, sorry, to seat 8. Sorry, I'm wrong, to seat 8. Now, the interesting thing about that modification plate is that says modified by owner. So in Australia, or certainly in Queensland, where this van was done, the owner put the seats in and did the modification, and then had that modification checked off by a modification place, and they put the plate on there and signed it all off. So I don't know what it cost to do it. I have no idea because I didn't do it, but I just know that when I was looking at getting an extra seat put in my other van, I was getting quoted a lot of money, and I was getting quoted like $2,000, you know, to do it with the seat and the mod. And it just seemed like a lot of money to me. I reckon if you could find the seats at the right price, you'd be better off to buy the seats and just do the job yourself, and then get someone to do the mod. I think that's probably the cheapest and best way to do it. I'll show you the mod plate in a minute, and I'll show you what that's got written on. But I'm obviously going to have to get mine modded again because I've removed 3 of the seats, and I'm not going to use those again. And the other thing that I'm a little bit concerned with is insurance. Like, I don't know what the deal is with insurance. I know that my insurance company, when I insured my van, said, if you ever change your van to a camper and it's no longer a commercial van, then you need to tell us, you need to let us know. So I haven't done that yet, you know, and I'm going to have to do it now because now it's starting to look like a camper. It's no longer looking like a commercial van anymore. So I don't know what the deal's going to be there, and it's going to be interesting to know, because like with my bike, for example, my bike was like a real hassle. I haven't done major modifications to my bike, but my bike had different brake levers and different brake master cylinder and cables and various other bits and pieces and some lights and some other things, and on a fairing kit. And yeah, and the insurance company that I was insuring my bike with originally said, oh no, sorry, can't insure it anymore because you've changed it. And then I went to a second insurance company and they're like, sorry, don't do that. And I did find a company in the end that did. I think I did it with Swan in the end, and they did cover it. But and I got a quote from Shannon. So Shannon's, of course, will do modified vehicles and they'll cover this kind of stuff. And apparently they cover camper vans as well. But they're expensive. They're really, really expensive. It's a shame. Like if they were a little bit more affordable, maybe a few dollars difference, I would have been happy to go with them. But because I heard good reports about them. But when they're like $200 dearer than everyone else, it's like, oh man, it's like it's a huge amount of money every year, a couple of $100. And who wants to waste a couple of $100? Anyone that's doing a camper van self-build probably doesn't want to. I certainly didn't want to. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'll tell you guys how that goes once I get into it. I haven't bothered to do it yet, but I'm going to do it soon. So I'll let you know what happens. So here's the modification plate on this van. So you can see there that it's modified by the owner. Modified takes 8 people, capacity 8. And yeah, modification by owner. So and that was done in 2008. So I guess in 2020 it could be different, but it was done by Queensland Transport. So it's obviously possible to do it. Now the interesting thing about this is that when I look at the seats and I look at the way they were modified and the way they were mounted, it was really, really simple. Really just exactly what I would have done. They had a couple of plates of really thick steel on the bottom that were, probably a couple of inches long with holes drilled in them, with bolts basically welded onto them, and just the big high tensile bolts go through your seats and through those, and then it just gets screwed up against the floor. And I thought that the way they did it actually was pretty crappy, to be honest. It could have been done even better than that, but that's what they did, and that was good enough. So obviously it's not too complicated to do it. If you wanted to do it yourself, you could do it. Anyone with half a brain could do it, that's for sure. But in this highly regulated society, whether you can do it or not, I don't know. So one of the things I love about my van, the awning. I think an awning's a must. I'm thinking so much so that in the future I would even consider spending bigger dollars and getting an electronic awning or a wind out awning that's even easier to take up and put down, because you just use it so much. I use it all the time. It's so handy keeping the heat off your van. It's just a huge thing. It gets so damn hot here. And having the airflow in the van. One of the things I'm going to have to look for today is to start looking for some 12-volt fans, because that's one thing I haven't ordered and I'm definitely going to need them. But it's amazing with the insulation of the van just feels so much nicer and cooler when I get inside it. Anyway, that's it. That's where it's at the moment. I better get on with this job, get it done, get some more work churned out as the day's ticking away once again. And I'll talk to you guys again soon.